High action is a common problem that makes your acoustic guitar difficult to play, and we'll show you how to fix that today. To first identify if your action is too high. If you feel like the action on your acoustic is too high, I'm going to show you two quick methods on how to check that. First, we're going to use a string action gauge. When measuring the action, I'll take the string action gauge to the 12th fret, which is just the 12th fret from the nut, and I'm going to use the 64th of an inch on the string action gauge itself. Right now we're looking at about 13/64 of an inch, which is really high. We want to get closer to about this range of about 6/64 to 5 to 4. If you don't have a string action gauge, I'll show you how to use a quarter. In a pinch, if you're going to use a quarter, I'm going to put the quarter directly on the 12th fret, and you want the top line of the E to be covered by the string itself. And that'll put you at about 6/64 of an inch. The three things we're going to address today is going to be back bow, if your neck is going down like this. We're going to address the saddle height, if the saddle height is too high. We're also going to address the nut height, if the nut is setting too high. First thing we're going to look at is neck relief. You want to make sure the neck is straight before you address anything else. Here's an example of a back bow that we really need to take care of before we do anything else. And you can see when you look down the neck, there's a big valley right towards the center of the neck. So to address this, we need to use an Allen wrench, the correct size. And we're also going to look and find where the truss rod access is. On this acoustic, it's at the top. A lot of times it will be covered. This one has a little truss rod cover like this. So you might have 3 screws, 1 screw, doesn't really matter. But you'll see when you pop that truss rod cover off, you'll see a little access there to the truss rod itself. So that we want to tighten on this one. And when tightening, it's important to make sure that if the truss rod feels really tight already, stop right there because you don't want to break the truss rod. If it feels loose with the back bow, definitely tighten it up until you feel comfortable to where it's nice and straight. And here's what your neck should look like when it's straight. Shouldn't have that back bow like it did earlier. Before we move to the next step, if your truss rod access is not at the top of the headstock, it's most likely right here at the bottom of the neck, inside the sound hole. And typically you're going to want to loosen up the 2 center strings to be able to access that properly. And the same concept goes righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. If you have a back bow, you're going to want to tighten it up. And if you have an up bow, you're going to loosen it. So you got your neck straight, but the action is still not quite where you want it. Let's look at the saddle height. So the saddle is the white piece that you see that sits right on top of the bridge right here. So this is the saddle that we're looking at. It's where the strings make connection into the guitar itself. And what we want to do on this, especially if the saddle is still creating, you still have too high of an action, we want to pop these bridge pins out and we're going to sand down the saddle slowly. First, we're going to loosen the strings. Then if you have a string winder, a lot of these have a handy little bridge pin puller right here. If you don't have one of these are really cheap, $3 maybe. And then just pop these strings out of here. Pull the saddle out. Now here at the shop we have a belt sander. Most people don't have that, so really you just have a little square of sandpaper. Maybe like a medium grit would be ideal. You can go finer than that too. We're gonna make sure we have even pressure, and we're just gonna try to go back and forth. And we're just sanding it down just enough. When you're doing it by hand, it's gonna take some time, so be patient. I would say do some sanding, and when you feel like you've gotten enough down, put it in and restring it real quick, and then if it's still too high, pop it back out and keep repeating until you get the right action. It's always better to make incremental changes than to go way too far and then have to figure that out. Here's a quick shot of the saddle action lowered after we sanded it down, and now this action plays exactly where it should. The last thing we want to address with high action as a common problem is going to be the nut height. Here's a picture of a nut that is sitting too high. As you can see, the gap is too large between the strings and the fretboard, and the problem is when you go down the neck, even if you've adjusted the neck relief and the saddle height, you're still going to have high action because the high action is starting at the nut. So what do? Well, we're going to, in this case, use fret filing tools. If you don't have fret filing tools, you can actually find some for fairly cheap. You'll see here that this has got 2 sides to it. This one has 0.05 inches and 0.06 inches. And you should be able to tell pretty easily the thicker side is going to be the 0.06 and the thinner side is going to be 0.05. A standard set of acoustic strings are usually 12 to 52. Generally speaking, just make sure whatever gauge strings you have on your acoustic, that whatever file you're using a slightly larger file for that slot. So to file it down, it's pretty self-explanatory. You're just going to make motions like this, going down and back. When I go to file, I'll actually make a slight angle down so that the string is making an angle down. It just makes better contact on the nut, and then come back straight. If you've never done this before, be really careful. It's really easy to accidentally gouge the wood on the acoustic. You're going to do the same process down the nut, and as you get to each new string, you're going to use a thinner file. Another method I've used to lower the nut height will be to loosen the strings. If you can pop the nut off itself, then you can do the same thing we did with the saddle, just going on the bottom of the nut until you've got it shaved down to where the action should be. Again, doing the same thing, incremental changes, putting it back on, seeing where the height is, and going back and forth. So either method would be fine, just kind of depends on the nut. Now here's 3 situations where I'd recommend taking it to a professional instead of doing it yourself. The first reason is if the bridge is coming off the body. If you see the bridge lifting up like it is here, this is something that I would not recommend addressing as a beginner. This is something you want to take to a shop. A lot of times they're going to have to actually remove the bridge and reattach it with special clamps. Another one that often goes hand in hand with a lifting bridge is belly bulge, right underneath the bridge. Here's an example of what belly bulge looks like. It's going to be a large hump that's right underneath the bridge and is caused by too much tension over a long period of time on the acoustic. And the last example I'm going to show you is if a guitar needs a neck reset. The neck is straight, everything's been adjusted, but the neck is pulling upwards, and so it's causing a ridiculously high action up the neck. And no matter what you do, not much you can do to fix it. You're gonna have to take this to someone that can professionally remove the neck from the body and then shim the neck back down to where it should be. Now your acoustic is adjusted exactly how it should be. It sounds and feels and plays great. And so thank you for sticking around for this video. If you want to see some more tips on how to properly restring your acoustic guitar, follow the link right here. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next video.